Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to episode 106 of the Falcoholic Live. I am, of course, your host, Kevin Knight, joined by my co-host this evening, Eric Robinson. You know him at _Eric_Robinson on Twitter, and Evan Birchfield at the very easy to remember, at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. First off, check in with you guys. Eric, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It seems like forever since we've been on.
Right. Yeah, that's those 2-week breaks, you know.
Yeah. It'll get you. Mm-hmm. It will get you, definitely.
And also with us tonight, Evan Birchfield. Evan, how are you holding up here in the midst of quarantine?
Doing well. Just ready to talk about some Falcons stuff.
Excellent. We all are. Before we get into some other stuff, I've had a pre-show request from Eric to discuss this most recent Todd Gurley workout video, so I will give the floor here to Eric to inform you about this video. So go ahead.
You know, I mean, we've seen a couple of videos over the last few days with him, you know, working out and him having a lot of time on his hands because he doesn't really have to worry about mini camps or anything. So he's getting little private workouts in, and you know, we saw a video that surfaced today with him leg pressing on the injured knee, the left knee. And while it looked great, and I'm glad that he's doing it, that's really not going to show me anything as far as when it comes to arthritis in the knee. Like that is something that, you know, you're not really going to notice it, or you're not even really going to probably have any symptoms or any pains from it when you're leg pressing.
Right.
I want to see more on the field. I want to see how the knee holds up with 250 carries or 275 total touches compared to him leg pressing. Like that's not going to show me anything. I'm sure he was able to leg press that much last year with the Rams, and it didn't stop the Rams from saying, hey man, we got to take some carries from you because you're not, you know, your knee's not all the way there. So like I said, it looks great. Don't sit here and see something like that and say, oh man, he's healthy, there's nothing wrong with his knee. I guarantee you his knee is probably going to flare up during the season. I can almost promise you that.
Yeah, and I would hope that the Falcons recognize that, as one of his shortcomings. And it's like he didn't play poorly last year, but you could tell the Rams were managing his workload, and that's just what they'll need to do. And that's fine as long as we all go into the season with that, you know, as a known factor. The Falcons understand that. They bring in, you know, adequate guys around him. And, you know, honestly, like if Ito's healthy, if Gurley's reasonably healthy, and the rest of that group can play to what we expect, like it's probably no big deal. It just problems start to happen if the knee flares up and Gurley can't go. Ito decides to retire for his concussion stuff, and then we're stuck with Brian Hill, Quadri Olison, you know, and that is not inspiring a ton of confidence. I mean, I know you'd like Brian Hill a lot, and there's a chance that certainly he could become a starter. Maybe not with Dirk Cutter, maybe somewhere else, but I think the hope is that they recognize that and, you know, we build the team accordingly. But yeah, don't never get too jazzed up about workout videos.
Definitely. I mean, because we saw what Duke Riley was able to do when he got drafted, and what did that really show us? The guy couldn't make a tackle on the field. So I mean, it's like I said, it's great, you know, and but just forgive me for being the type of guy that is, you know, approaching the side of caution here, because, you know, we're talking about a guy that's 25 years old, 26 years old, and he's dealing with arthritis issues. That's pretty young to have that. So you're talking about a guy that, you know, arthritis is only going to get worse the older you get. So that's alarming. It really is. 25 years old with arthritis in your knee as a running back. That's scary. That is alarming, man. So
it is. I mean, even for his life outside of football, too. I mean, that's just a difficult thing to have to deal with. I don't envy him that, for sure. But, yeah, I mean, that. And again, like with the Falcons only giving him a 1-year deal, you know, they're not really on the hook for him after this year. Like if it turns out that the knee is bad, you know, and it's poor, you know, it's only going to hurt them this year. It's not like they have money, you know, stuck in other seasons and all this. So it's... You know, it is a risk-reward type of move, and we've known that from the beginning. And, you know, him being a fan favorite, obviously, with the very large contingent of, you know, UGA fans that are Falcons fans, it made sense from a lot of angles, and we talked about it to death. But, you know, we'll just hope that he's healthy and everything's okay. But we won't know until he starts playing. Like, workouts aren't really going to tell us much.
But this is definitely, this is definitely a move. This is definitely an acquisition that's going to make or break the Falcons' offense this season. Like there's no other way around it. We know the passing game is going to be decent at least because of Ryan and Julio and Ridley, but we're going to see whether this is a one-dimensional offense that can only keep him in games at least, or is this going to be a complete offense with Gurley? So that's why I say, man, I'm approaching this with a side of caution here because it's just their offensive output lies really on the production of Gurley.
Yeah. I mean, especially the rushing production, and we'll see it. Maybe this is where Cutter breaks the streak. I mean, since Maurice Jones-Drew, he hasn't had a 1,000-yard rusher. So, we'll see if he can get there with Todd Gurley.
Break the streak with a guy that has arthritis in his knees. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm getting relatively breaking news from, I guess, 28 minutes ago that Jadeveon Clowney turned down a massive offer from the Browns, apparently, is what the report was. So he's still on the market, Falcons fans.
How much we're talking?
I don't know if they actually gave a number, which probably, they probably won't give us the number. It's quote-unquote a big offer. I'm guessing they're offering him $18 million plus, right?
How has he not fired his agent at this point?
I mean, who knows, man? I don't know.
And what is he looking for?
Yeah. I mean, he's looking for 20 plus, I think.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, off the year he had, I mean, he's not going to get that. I think
he's not getting it.
No.
Not this late in free agency. Who the hell gives out $20 million a year contracts this late in free agency?
Mm-hmm.
You missed that. That window is closed, brother.
Well, maybe if he just waits and waits and waits, eventually he'll come to the Falcons on like a 1 year, $8 million deal. Just to prove it.
Not to mention, wouldn't you want to? I mean, look, I get it. It's the Browns, but man, to team up with Myles Garrett,
right?
That would be.
It's not like the Browns suck anymore. Like, the Browns aren't like a terrible... I mean, I understand not wanting to live in Cleveland, but...
They're talented. They just can't put wins together. But they're talented.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would actually turn that down. Me and Myles Garrett?
Yeah. I mean, that sounds good to me, honestly.
Sounds good.
So,
that sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Whatever, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on with that, but I just thought that was interesting, so I piped that in for you guys. So let's talk about the one bit of actual Falcons news that we have, which was the signing of linebacker Deon Bucannon. He's a player that's been linked to the Falcons before, never actually ended up here, but he's someone that the team has had interest in the past. He's kind of a linebacker safety hybrid, had some really good years in Arizona, hasn't been as productive of late. He's had some injuries, but still pretty young. Probably here on an affordable deal. I mean, it has to be less than $1 million because that's all the cap space the Falcons have when they signed him. So we know it's not going to be for big money. We know it's a 1 year deal too, so they can't do any sort of cap shenanigans to spread that out. So I guess I'll start, since we gave Eric the floor for his Gurley thing here. We'll start with Evan here. So Evan, you have any thoughts on the signing of Deon Bucannon?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was a bad move. He's done in the past, I believe, with Arizona, he did linebacker and safety. I don't honestly remember much from last year where he was with the Giants and Buccaneers. But, I mean, it's a move that, it didn't cost a whole lot, I imagine. So at this late in free agency, why not? I'm not really sold at linebacker anyways, so I don't mind adding some, veteran depth there. So
right, yeah,
not a bad move.
Yeah. I mean, compared to what they had at linebacker, which we'll get to obviously, later in the show. It's a move that probably it's a guy that's probably going to make the roster almost by default, just because they don't really have a lot of veteran linebackers. We know the team likes him. He's versatile. He can cover a little bit. He's definitely athletic. And he's one of those like smaller linebackers that the Falcons, seem to be totally comfortable with. They don't care about size at the linebacker position, which makes him a better fit in their defense than pretty much any other team. Maybe Seattle, where they are fine with the small linebackers too. But he's coming off like a relatively down year, but still a solid player, and I think that he will end up making the roster when it's all said and done. You got any thoughts on that signing, Eric?
I really liked it, honestly. Is it going to be a signing that's going to elevate the defense and put them to an elite level? No, but with what they had at linebacker, I don't think it really hurt for them at all for them to get a cheap deal for a guy that's 27.
I think so, something like that.
He is 27. August 30th, he'll turn 28. So
he's 28. So he still has some tread on the tires a little bit. He didn't play much in New York or in Tampa, and I don't think it was really injury related. Looking back on his last couple years, he really didn't suffer any injuries, any setbacks, or anything physical like that. So just bringing him in, adding his athleticism, adding his versatility to the defense, it is going to help them, in my opinion. I feel a lot better about the weak side linebacker position now with him in the fold compared to possibly giving that starting job to Oluokun and hoping for the best. So I like him coming in. He's probably going to have the Kamal Ishmael role, which fits him better than Kamal Ishmael himself.
He's a little more athletic.
Definitely a little bit more athletic. And, of course, he's another first-rounder.
Right.
So this is another intriguing former first-rounder that they bought in. And I know you guys probably noticed this, but literally every first-rounder that they signed this offseason was on their draft radar. Like, it was literally a guy that they had genuine, strong interest in. And they just were not able to pull the trigger. But they're bringing in every single guy that they liked at some point in time. And
Dave, I think, had an article during last season about the possibility of them bringing in Buchanan. So that just happened, And then you mentioned Ishmael. Apparently, he's wearing 36 like Ishmael. So
yeah. So I mean, it's going to be really easy to remember, who's doing what. But yeah, I agree. He fits what they wanted Ishmael to do better than Ishmael, because
you guys
unlike
feel his start.
I mean, I think he'll compete with Oluokun. I mean, he might start. It probably depends on how far Oluokun has come in coverage, because Oluokun's got the better size, but Buchanan's probably he's definitely the more experienced player in coverage. We'll have to see. I mean, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I think it'll be a competition. I mean, I think it would be surprising to see Oluokun not win the job, to me, but I think Buchanan will play still. And I think having Buchanan there as your third linebacker to back up, Deon and Oluokun, instead of just having Michael Walker and then Leroy Reynolds. That makes me a lot more comfortable going into the season, because at some point we'll need a linebacker that's not Oluokun or Deon Jones to be starting. And I feel much more comfortable with Buchanan than Leroy Reynolds. Yeah. So, I mean, Leroy Reynolds is a good special teamer, right? But,
Yeah.
He's our most technically experienced linebacker, Reynolds.
Yeah, but I don't need to see him on the field on first, second, third, or fourth down.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see him on the field for special teams. And look, I mean, if he has to play a few snaps a game, he's not a disaster, but he's not someone you want taking snaps. So
this also helps bring Michael Walker along a little slowly, because you can kind of switch things up a little bit, and you can slide Oluokun to give him some strong side linebacker snaps and still have Buchanan and Devo at that second level, depending on matchup, so if you're going up against a guy like Jared Cook or something like that, you can have Oluokun out there playing those strong side linebacker snaps, and you can still have Buchanan covering the middle of the field, covering those short drags and those short curls against Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. So
yeah,
this versatility, you want to describe the Falcons defense, that's the perfect word.
Right. Yeah, and he might, I wouldn't say Buchanan's amazing in coverage, but he's probably the second best coverage linebacker they have, almost by default. Just because, obviously Deon's an elite coverage linebacker, but Oluokun, that was the one area he struggled last year. The rest of his game was actually pretty solid. So, Oluokun's still really young, so obviously, coming from Yale and adjusting to the NFL, he could continue to improve. But it's nice to have that veteran insurance there and have another guy that can step in and start if there are injuries, which they didn't really have before. It was just a bunch of question marks. So Michael Walker's still there too. I don't know that we really want to see Michael Walker starting in the nickel necessarily this year, but probably not. So we'll go from there. But I like the signing. I think it was probably good value, and we don't have the total numbers of the contract yet, but they didn't pay much. He's a good player. He fits the scheme. So at a time when they basically had $0 available, they still got someone who's probably going to make the roster, which is a pretty good signing at this point of the year. We're going to get to the defense. I guess now that I think about it, this is probably the last show we're going to have before the Falcons get their free agency money after June 1st. So I guess I would kick it to each of you guys and maybe get your thoughts on who you think the Falcons might pursue, if there's a particular free agent you have in mind for the Falcons that they might chase with their newly acquired monies after June 1st. So, Eric, you have anyone in mind that you've been thinking of?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they sat still.
That would be pretty typical Falcons.
It would. I wouldn't be surprised if they just take majority of that and just roll that over into, because you look in past off seasons, they've always rolled into the season with around 4, 5, 6 in cap space for like emergency money, just in case. They've always done that. Yeah. So for them to go out and get a guy once that they get the money, once they get Trufant's contract off the books and they get that cap space, I don't know if I necessarily see that. If I had to name someone or positions, Everson Griffin is one that comes to mind. That could definitely be a possibility, but that kind of offsets trading for Charles Harris a little bit. So I don't know. Yeah. I think them trading for Charles Harris might have just pretty much nixed everything as far as getting a veteran defensive end, even though a guy like Vinny Curry is out there. One name that I saw that's intriguing, Lamar Miller, the former starting running back from the Texans, is a name to kind of sort of keep an eye on. He's had the injury issues in Houston the past couple seasons, but you mentioned earlier about having a little weariness when it comes to that running back position, and I think a guy like Lamar Miller can come in and give some pretty decent spot duty alongside Brian Hill and the rest of the cast, just in case Gurley's not able to go. So, but if I had to place a bet on it, I think they're just going to sit still, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility, especially with the Falcons we know and love. On the topic of running backs, somebody that I highlighted was Theo Riddick, because they don't really have a big pass catching option. He actually sat out last year because he didn't have a contract offer he liked, so he's had a little bit of a break. But yeah, I mean, Riddick, not going to be expensive. One of the NFL's better pass catching specialists. Obviously, he kind of telegraphs what you're doing when you put him on the field, but in terms of replacing, Devonta Freeman's targets from running back, if Ito Smith isn't healthy, it's basically Todd Gurley as the only guy who's an accomplished receiver of that group. So, Riddick could be a very cheap option. Another one, like you mentioned, the name Vinny Curry is someone that supposedly they've been linked to. He would definitely be like the cheapest of the edge guys that are out there. He's only going to cost them probably a few million, and it's because he's a rotational guy. Like, he's never someone that's gotten a ton of sacks, a ton of pressures. He's someone that's going to be like your third edge probably, but he's a solid player. He would add more veteran presence to that room. He's probably a better pass rusher than Steven Means, but he's not someone that's going to move the needle for them necessarily. He's just kind of more reliable depth. Michael Bennett's still out there too. Quinn's had chances to add Bennett and he hasn't yet, but if the money's right, Bennett's probably not very expensive right now. That's how much they love those tweeners, man. I feel like if they could only have if they could go into the season with like 6 Allen Baileys of various size and strength and athleticism, they would do it. Like, they absolutely would do it.
No offense, man, but the ship has sailed on Michael Bennett at this point.
He was actually productive last year. I looked him up today.
What do they want? Of all, I mean, they've had like 3 off seasons to get him, and they haven't swung.
Well,
yet.
yes,
So it's like, why
that's
now?
true. Yeah, well, I mean, if they want someone cheap that Quinn knows. But Bennett last year had, between 2 teams, he got kicked around between 2 teams. He had 6.5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, 15 QB hits, and 24 pressures. So, I mean, that's solid. Like,
It is.
he's not
It
washed,
is.
but yeah, he's not like 2013 Michael Bennett anymore.
But
So-
if if they wanted him, they would have got him by now. I mean, they had him. They had an opportunity to pull him via trade, and it's like the past 3 off seasons we've been kicking this ball here. And at this point, if they haven't gotten him, they're probably not going to get him.
Yeah, it seems like they don't really want him. I mean, I definitely agree with you there. But yeah, I mean, there's other potential options out there too. I guess at like corner and stuff. But yeah, to me, I mean, if it was up to me, I would sign Everson Griffin and not look back and say, you and your emergency funds, Falcons. You know what? How about some emergency funds to save Quinn and Dimitroff's jobs? Because if that's what they want, they should sign Everson Griffin. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll see how that goes.
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. They do tend to take at least a few million into the season every year. Evan, you have any free agents that you're interested in still out there on the market?
I mean, aside from Griffin, just to throw a different name out there, I thought Clay Matthews would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's much older. He's probably about 34, 35, but still had 8 sacks last year. I think he played in like 13 or 14 games, but, why not see what he's got left in him? It'd be a 1-year deal anyways, just to add some veteran leadership depth, whatever you want to call it. I think that would be an interesting option.
That
but
would be.
Yeah.
I actually like
I mean,
that.
what's one more Ram anyways,
Right, might as well.
Like,
right.
I like that one.
He was good last year. Yeah.
I like that one more than Griffin and Curry. I didn't. Really
I don't know
think
what
about
the
that one.
price would be.
It
I mean,
would-
we can
he-
It'd
speculate.
be like
Last
6
year-
million probably.
I don't know if it'll be that much because wasn't the deal last year like a 1 year, like 3 or 4 million?
I
with
don't
the
know. They
Rams?
still
It
owe
was-
him money,
They
apparently.
still owe him like 2.5 million.
Yeah, it was 2 years, 16.75 million.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I read.
Yeah.
It. My bad.
But he could probably be had this year, and they cut him because the Rams are in cap hell. That's why they had to cut him.
Mhm.
But
Same with Gurley and
he's-
whoever
yeah.
else.
he started 13 games.
yeah.
And
Oh,
he'll be
13.
30. Oh, okay. He'll be 34. Like he just turned 34. So
That's his best. That was his
That's
best
something.
season since 2014.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously he's still got it. So I mean, he's definitely someone who's interesting. Someone in the chat,
and his
Daniel
cousin's
Williams.
on the team, right?
And,
Yeah.
yeah. He still has it in a part-time role. Like, do not look at the 13 starts and say, okay, he's a full-time guy. He's still Clay Matthews of Green Bay. No, if you watch them, they rotated him out fairly, enough in LA where, he saw maybe 20 rushes a game or something like that, 25 rushes a game. Like, he wasn't out there a ton.
Yeah.
Good one. That was a good one, Evan.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think as a situational pass rusher, like a third down specialist, I think he would be very,
And he's the
needed.
type of player, he doesn't slack off on plays,
No.
at least from everything I've ever seen of him. Like, he's a high motor guy and stuff like that. So he's going to give you everything he's got. So
I like that.
I don't know.
Evan. Absolutely.
love
The third down, him opposite Dante Fowler.
Well, I'm out because I'm not going to talk.
All right, that was my good take for the night. Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, that never crossed my mind. That never
Yeah.
crossed my mind until now. And now I'm looking at it like, he can really be a good third down edge rusher opposite Fowler.
Mhm.
I like that one. Good one.
Or
Evan.
if Fowler
And
needs a break, he can play the same role as Fowler too. So.
Right.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him already. So
Yeah. Maybe
I
he'll
mean, the
maybe he'll
only
take the family
difference is-
discount, like you said. Yeah.
Maybe.
as some people mentioned, trying to stir up the was it the Aaron Donald effect for Fowler? We would definitely get that answer because we'd also have Clay Matthews who
Yeah.
freaking
I like
excelled
that one.
last
And
year. So
he'll be another first rounder also.
Oh, there we go. We're just stacking
They
up
love
those
that.
first round.
they love that.
Got to get that pedigree in here. Another one that somebody said was in the chat. Daniel Williams reminded Marcus Golden. He got
he not signed?
He actually technically is. So technically he received because I did my Edge free agent piece today. So shout out to the Falcoholic. Check that piece out if you want to know more about these free agent Edge guys. But so the Giants actually gave him the UFA tender, which is very rarely used. And basically what that does is it's like an automatic contract that pays him 110% of his previous year's salary. So that would be $5.2 million. So he's free to sign elsewhere if he wants, and the Falcons don't owe them anything. But they'd have to be able to beat $5.25 million to sign him, for him to want to sign. I would think, which they could. But he had he had 10 sacks and a ton of tackles for loss and
16 starts, 10 sacks, 72 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 27 quarterback hits.
Yes, 44 total pressures.
How the hell is he still a free agent?
How old is he?
28.
It's because he missed the previous 2 seasons due to injury, and he's only had one other good season in which he got 12.5 sacks. But he's basically, up until this last season, he was Vic Beasley. Like, he had one good season, and then he was mediocre. But
he did anything. He played on the Giants defense that didn't have anything.
Right, exactly. Now, yeah.
So, that should have equate to a contract by now.
Yeah, and he's not a flashy athlete type of guy. I actually scouted him for Scouting Academy. He was one of my guys that I watched.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and his thing was he was just a great run defender. Like, he was always a really good run defender, but in 2016 he had 12.5 sacks and everyone was like, oh my god. And then he got hurt 2 years in a row. Arizona cut him loose. He went to the Giants. Now he's finally healthy, has 10 sacks again. But he's an effort and strength rusher. He's not a dynamic rusher, but he's a great run defender too. So I think I'd be totally down if we could get him for like $6 million. I think that's a great deal. But we'll see where they go. I think all those guys you mentioned, Clay, Marcus Golden, Everson Griffin, all those guys are potentially good options for the Falcons. So I hope they sign one of them.
And I forgot too. Clay Matthews' dad played for the Falcons.
We got to bring him home,
right?
Man. Yeah, bring him home. Bring him home, TD.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So let's get into this defense, this Falcons defense. We've been talking about the edge group, so we can start there. That makes sense. We'll start from the front seven out, going over it position by position. We'll talk a little bit about the players we have, who we think is going to start, all that good stuff. So I'm going by what the Falcons officially have listed. Obviously, we can quibble about where these guys actually are going to play, but we'll use that as a start. So as of right now, the Falcons have 9 defensive ends, aka edges, under contract. Dante Fowler, Takaris McKinley, Alan Bailey, John Kaminsky, Stephen Means, the recently traded for Charles Harris, former UDFA Austin Larkin, and 2 current undrafted free agents, Austin Edwards and Bryson Young, who I assumed would play linebacker, but they have him listed at defensive end, so maybe he's going to play more of an edge role. So from that group, obviously we know Dante Fowler is starting, but other than that, there's a lot up in the air. There's a lot of guys competing for those final spots. So Eric, I'll let you take the first crack at this. Who do you think are the starting 2 edges? Obviously Fowler being one, but who do you think is the guy that's going to start opposite Fowler in like pass rushing situations? Who do you think that number 2 guy ends up being?
I think is going to ultimately be Tack. I'm sure the team is going to want it to be Tack. He's facing a critical year, man. There's no way around that. They turned down his 5th year option. So that's quite obvious that the team is saying, hey man, it's time to put up or shut up. So I think it's going to be him opposite Fowler, especially on those pass rushing downs. And I think you're going to see a fairly decent rotation, just given the guys that they have now. We brought all those names out in free agency, but they still got a guy in John Kaminsky that they want to throw in the mix there at edge, along with him sliding inside, him taking over that Jack Crawford role. And Alan Bailey is still in the mix as well. But when it's all said and done, Tack's going to be the guy. He is going to be him, and it's going to be Fowler, and they're going to be in charge of getting after the quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my thought too, is that it's probably Tack. Unless they sign another free agent guy that's a bigger, big time edge rusher. Tack is probably the one they're relying on to be the number 2 guy. In the base, it's probably going to be Alan Bailey getting a lot of reps at on the strong side at the 5 tech. We'll see if John Kaminsky plays any base end as well. But yeah, that group is looking interesting. Now, obviously, I think the top 4 guys are all safe with Fowler, McKinley, Alan Bailey, and John Kaminsky. Like, those guys aren't going anywhere. Behind them, there's 5 other guys apparently competing, for what may be 1 more spot, maybe 2. So, Stephen Means, Charles Harris, Austin Larkin, Austin Edwards, and Bryson Young. Evan, of that group, who are the 1 or 2 guys you think end up winning those final spots on the roster?
I think Stephen Means is an interesting one just because they keep seeming to bring him back. I don't know if that's just because they're used to him or whatever, but he's had injuries in the past. Larkin is probably the one I'm most interested in. I think given what we've seen, he's looked pretty good. He's only, I believe, been in the league for 1 year. But he's very young. The guy I'm secretly pulling for is Austin Edwards, but that's solely just because I've gotten to know him when I did the undrafted free agent thing on him. He's got. I mean, he went to a smaller school, Fair State, which most people probably have never even heard of. So he'll probably end up on the practice squad, but he's a massive dude. He's 6'5", 280. Won like the Gene Upshaw Award, which is the best defensive or offensive lineman at the Division II level, and he's just a good dude. But I don't know. I mean, like you mentioned, I think someone else will probably be added to the, who's not on the roster currently. But yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for anyone to make it in this edge rotation just because there are so many names. If they add another free agent, I mean, it's like one of those
Harris
guys.
Is still there, and I don't think any of us are really expecting a whole lot, at least from what I've heard and seen.
Yeah, I mean, he would basically need to turn it around pretty spectacularly to win a roster spot. I mean, I personally think it's probably Stephen Means unless he's hobbled by injury because they seem to really like him. But yeah, I mean, it could be Harris. It could be, Austin Larkin. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's probably Means, and I guess Harris would be the 6th guy if they keep 6 edges. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a toss up there. They seem to really like Means, and he's a solid veteran, so he makes a lot of sense. But if you think about it, that leaves only 3 true defensive ends, like 3 true edge guys in that group. So I guess I could see them potentially keeping, a 6th guy and like a Charles Harris to have an extra edge, like an actual true edge there, because, Alan Bailey and John Kaminsky are like 5 tech big end guys. And theoretically, I guess Marlon Davidson could play some edge for you too if you need him to. But yeah, it's difficult.
I think they're kind of rooting for Harris.
I think so too. I mean, they traded for him, but
even though it's the 7th rounder, but I think they're wanting to pull something out of him. He's a former 1st rounder, so
yeah, and presumably the guaranteed part of his contract's already been paid out by Miami.
Right.
So, they're not on the hook for much financially, but I mean, he's getting paid over $2 million. So if he's not good in camp, they're going to let him go. So we'll see what happens there. Eric, do you think either of those 2 undrafted guys, Edwards or Bryson Young, has a shot at making the roster, or are they working for a practice squad spot?
Oh, I think they're working for a practice squad. Because even though I said that I feel that they're gonna hold that free agency money, if there is one spot that they're going to spend it's probably going to be on the defensive line, and I think that's going to be a tall tale sign whether those guys even have a chance or not. So I'm banking on them just fighting for that one practice squad.
Yeah. I mean, it could be Larkin or Edwards or Young. I mean, Larkin's probably got the leg up there just because he was impressive last year in the preseason and he's been kept around. But Edwards is very intriguing. And Bryson Young is more of like a linebacker edge hybrid, so I'm interested to see what he can do too. But, that group is interesting. Let's move on to defensive tackle, where the team has 7 players listed at defensive tackle on their official roster. So the first 3 names are absolutely 100% safe. Grady Jarrett, obviously. Tyler Davison, they just gave big money to. And, second-round pick Marlon Davidson, all safe names. And then behind them, we got 4 more guys. Former third-round pick Deon Jones, who apparently is in the doghouse. We're still trying our best to figure out what's going on there.
What? What does this guy do?
Right.
We'll never know.
We'll never know, yeah. Jacob Tuwadi Mariner, who was a former UDFA, who's hung around the team. Henwa Elu, I think that's how you pronounce the name. He is another one of those big end / defensive tackle guys, versatile. And then Silosi Latu, who is 6'3", 334 pounds. He is a monster, giant run-stuffing nose, who I think has generated a lot of interest because people that big, they just find a way to make it work in the NFL. So let's see here. I can't remember who I went to first last time. I think it was
Evan.
It was Evan. Okay. So, Eric, does Marlon Davidson start next to Grady Jarrett in the nickel, or is it one of the other guys on the roster?
In the nickel?
Yeah, because I don't think we think Marlon Davidson's starting in the base, because it's probably going to be Tyler Davison in the base. But let's say pass rushing situations.
Okay, yeah, definitely. He's there. He's there. He's a shoo-in. You can pin that in. He's probably going to be the nickel guy on pass rushing downs alongside Grady Jarrett. Depend, and like you mentioned, man, depending on certain situations, you may see tack kicked inside with Davidson splitting outside just to get tack's quickness against centers and guards. You never know. I mean, again, versatility is where it comes into play. So, but I think as far as the nickel situation goes, Davidson is a shoe-in, man. He's there. I can't wait to see him and Grady run stunts.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's gonna be so fun.
Yeah, Davidson is so athletic for a defensive tackle-sized human being. Like, this man rushed off the edge at 300 pounds. Like, it's kind of crazy. So he's going to be really good at running stunts, and he's, I'm really excited to see that.
Can't wait to see that.
Yeah, that's going to be real exciting. Let's move on to, the middle of this group. Evan, we just talked about Deon Jones and him, being the most wanted man in Atlanta. So what do you think is going on with Sanat? Do you think he's going to make the team this year? Do you think they're just going to jettison him? What's your gut telling you with regards to Deon Jones this year?
I have no idea. That it's puzzling, and we talked about it literally all of last year, and there was plenty of opportunities where they could let him start, and I think he probably started a handful of games, or played in a handful of games, but I keep feeling like one of these days I'm just going to get a notification that they traded him, and that's the end of it. But to answer your question, I have no idea, just because unless you could ask him, what's going on, it just seems like nobody knows.
Yeah. And they haven't been open about it. They just kind of
no.
It
hasn't been injury from our knowledge, so.
So, it wouldn't surprise me if we found out one day that it was injury related, but at this point, we haven't heard that.
He did have shoulder surgery after the season, which again was odd because he didn't play in the game.
Right. So it very well could be injury related, and they just didn't tell us, which is pretty typical Falcons. But
I don't think that's it.
No. No, I agree with you. Yeah.
Why is he still here? Like, that's the thing. If it's not injury related and it's not a situation where he's in the doghouse, why is he still why is he here but not active? That's the thing. Mm-hmm. So my way of looking at it is, at this point, I think we can safely say the team wants him and the team wants to use him, because again, if it's not injury and there's not anything outside of that, they have plenty of reason to get rid of him at this point. The guy hasn't really played in like 2 years.
Right.
So why is he still here? That's the thing. And I think he's still here because the team still wants him, because they had plenty of opportunity to cut him loose.
Yeah, I mean, and I think honestly he was like Tyler Davison's backup at the nose, and like Tyler Davison just never missed any time, so he never got a chance to play. But like he's not your typical like big nose tackle. Like he could play 3 tech. Like he could do some more things. He just never really got a chance. So and they played Jacob Twatty-Mariner over him. Like it's like what is going on? Like and Jacob Twatty-Mariner was fine, but like can we get our 3rd round pick on the field? Like at least try.
I couldn't even get active on
right.
game day.
So it's very bizarre. Yeah, it's very bizarre, and there's some competition. So I mean, if he doesn't show something, and honestly, like whenever he's played, he's looked good. Like he looked good his rookie year. He's looked good in the preseason. Like I don't know what else this man can do to get on the field. So this training camp will tell us. Like if he gets cut, then that means they didn't really like him. So they probably should have cut him loose a long time ago. But Dimitroff and his thing about 3rd rounders. Like he never wants to get rid of his 3rd. Like remember Desmond Southward? That man could not play football. That man could straight up not play football, and he was on the roster for like 3+ years. So, like he's just very reluctant. But like Deidre Sinat can play football and has been good playing football.
Remember when they tried to force feed Duke Riley on the field for snaps?
I do remember. Yeah, I tried to forget. Thank you for reminding me. But yeah, I mean it's interesting there. But speaking of like the later guys on the roster, Jacob Twatty-Mariner, Hinwa Alu, and Silosi Latu. Evan, any of those guys stand out to you in terms of someone you think could challenge for a roster spot or a practice squad spot this year?
I think Latu. I did. I hate to keep piping up these
I read
free agents, but. He is like a true nose tackle. I don't think he had a single sack in college, but at San Jose State, he was basically their run stuffer up the middle. And you mentioned he's 334. He's a massive dude. I believe the biggest defensive tackle, probably the biggest player on the roster in terms of weight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a huge body, good attitude and stuff like that. Purely situational where they need a nose tackle in, but I mean, it's somebody to keep an eye on. I mean, the interesting thing is there's not a whole lot of competition outside of, I mean, obviously the key guys, Jarrett, Davison, and Davidson. Sanat's a question mark. That Alu guy is also new, and, I don't know much about him. It was hard to find tape on him because he went to Nebraska Kearney or something,
right,
which I didn't even know was a real thing either.
I thought that was made up. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, I mean, Toyota Mariner. We know a little bit about him, so maybe he's like the favorite outside of them. But everybody's behind, Grady, Davison, and Davidson. Even Davidson's real young. So outside of Davison and Jarrett, not a whole lot of experience.
Yeah, you're right, and it's like. Technically, some of those edges we talked about are probably going to be more like defensive tackles. Like
Kaminsky.
Like Kaminsky might play more on the inside than the outside. Maybe Bailey would too. So like, what's probably going to happen is they're going to do like keep 6 edges, quote unquote, and like 4 defensive tackles, quote unquote. But it's probably more like 5 and 5. But if they do only keep 4 true defensive tackles, like it's. The competition's stiff because that means it's down to those 4 guys for essentially one spot. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think to me it's either probably Deidre Sinat or Silosi Latu because if Sinat really is backing up Davison, the nose tackle, his biggest competition has to be Latu, who's like a giant true nose. So we'll see what happens there. Eric, did you have any thoughts on the bottom of that defensive tackle chart and how that might shake out?
Not really. I mean, I think it's pretty much set in stone at this point, honestly. Because you're gonna see a decent incorporation of Tack and Kaminsky and even Bailey at times. So I don't think they need to really stock the cupboard when it comes to defensive tackles anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, like we were talking about, maybe another nose, like run stuffing nose. But like Silosi Latu, maybe they could put him on the practice squad. And he could be one of those guys they could elevate on game days if Davison is roughed up or injured, or they just want another big body against run heavy teams. So yeah, I mean, I think Latu has a great shot at the practice squad just because he is a specialist player that they might want to take advantage of the new rules to get kind of quasi on the roster, and also a guy that probably isn't going to generate like a ton of interest from outside teams, as opposed to someone like a Deon Jones, who's a former third rounder. Someone will almost certainly sign him. So that'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. Moving on to linebacker. 8 guys on the roster. We talked about several of them already. Deon Jones, obviously the star and the starter. Foyesade Oluwokan, rookie Michael Walker, recent addition Deone Bucannon, who we talked about at the top of the show. Then we got a couple of free agents. Edmund Robinson, who was a standout in the XFL. Leroy Reynolds, standout special teamer, rejoined the team. And then we have a former undrafted guy, Ahmad Thomas, who's bounced around the league for several years. And only one actual undrafted free agent addition at linebacker, which is Jordan Williams, someone who I'm not super familiar with. So there's 8 guys there. Falcons usually keep 5 linebackers, so the competition's going to be tight for that final spot. Because to me, I think the top 4 is relatively set with Deon Jones, Foyesade Oluwokan, Michael Walker, and Deone Bucannon. And that 5th spot, it's going to probably go to either the most promising or the best special teamer. But Evans, I think I'm switching it off correctly. I apologize if I messed it up. But Evan, who do you think has the leg up for that 5th spot if you had to choose one of those guys right now?
Possibly Ahmad Thomas, because I believe he was on the practice squad last year.
He was.
So maybe some more familiarity. Leroy Reynolds obviously coming back, some more special teams. Edmund Robinson's interesting. I believe he played. You said he was XFL. I think he played for the Vikings.
He did. Yeah, he was a 7th round pick of the Vikings
a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of guys. That's why I'm hoping like something with, if not Clay Matthews, another linebackers added. I just don't like the. Buchanan's been in the league for 7 years. Obviously, Deon's a starter. Leroy Reynolds is technically their most veteran with 8 years. But outside of that, it's a lot of young guys, at least inexperienced. So hopefully they add somebody else. I think Micaiah Walker is interesting. Jordan Williams, another one of those dudes I talked to. He's more of a practice squad guy, but he's, special teams. He's kind of like a Leroy Reynolds. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's interesting, the only one who's actually probably available to go to the practice squad is maybe like Ahmad Thomas and Jordan Williams, because everybody else probably has too many accrued seasons. Mm-hmm. Edmund Robinson played several years in the league before going to the XFL. Leroy Reynolds obviously doesn't have any practice squad eligibility. So, that it could possibly hurt them or help them, depending on your thoughts on the practice squad. But, someone like Leroy Reynolds might win a roster spot because of their inability to go on the practice squad. Same thing with Edmund Robinson. And instead, they might reserve a practice squad spot for someone like Thomas or Williams. Eric, do you got any thoughts on the bottom of that linebacker group? Do you have a favorite of those guys to make the roster or someone to perhaps make the practice squad there?
Evan Robinson is definitely intriguing.
He's big.
If you watch a little bit of the XFL season, he started to come around. Like as you guys mentioned, he was drafted by Minnesota, and he had some rough patches in Minnesota. Most notably, times where he just looked, his football awareness was completely off. He didn't know where he was on the field or what to do exactly. But you saw him in XFL, and he looks to be more of a well-rounded linebacker now. So he's intriguing. And again, versatility, man. He can stand up. He can rush. Keep his name on the radar.
Yeah. I mean, he's not all that old either. He's younger than Leroy Reynolds, I think. So,
20?
Yeah, he is 28.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think if it came down to him and Leroy Reynolds, they might go with Robinson just because, I think he has more upside of actually playing.
And he can rush the passer.
Yeah, and he's got the size too, which they don't really have outside of Michael Walker. So, I agree with you that Edmund Robinson is very intriguing. I think I actually have him as my 5th linebacker in projections right now, ahead of Leroy Reynolds. But we know they love Leroy Reynolds, so it's hard to have him off the roster. But yeah, I mean, I think Evan Robinson could probably play special teams too. So I think we can get by with just a 6'4" to 245 linebacker on special teams. I think that would also be beneficial to this team.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. 2 more position groups left tonight. We got cornerback coming up, which is a big one. 10 players on the roster right now at corner. Obviously, the Falcons added in, a big addition here. A.J. Terrell at the top of the draft. Isaiah Oliver also here, former second-round pick. Kendall Sheffield probably manning the slot, according to everything we've heard, and he also was very good in the slot last year. Bleedy Ray Wilson, the reliable jack-of-all-trades veteran, probably also safe due to his ability to play inside and outside and, being one of, 2 veterans on this roster. Jordan Miller, suspended to start the season, but, last year draft pick, probably not going anywhere. And then we got 5 other guys. Josh Hawkins, another XFL player, I believe, did also spend time with the Packers in the past. CJ Rivas was on the practice squad for the Falcons over the course of the season and I think made it onto the roster at the end of the year. And then 3 undrafted guys in Delrick Abrams, Rogesterman Ferris, definitely the best name of the group, and then Tyler Hall. So, Eric, we've got all these guys at the top: A.J. Terrell, Isaiah Oliver, Kendall Sheffield, Bleedy Ray Wilson. All of them are probably safe. Who do you think is actually starting week 1? Who do you think are the 3 guys that are starting? I mean, do you think there's any chance that A.J. Terrell is not starting or Isaiah Oliver's not starting?
Let's have a bad training camp, bad preseason.
Right.
Those guys are there. Those guys are it. And to be quite honest with you, I think in order for the group itself to get its most potential, I think, we're going to need Terrell and Oliver to man the outside and let Sheffield be the slot corner. I think Sheffield has immense potential as a slot corner in the league. He can possibly be the best slot corner in the NFL in about a year or 2. Mm-hmm. Give him some more. Give him some time. Let him. He's going to be fine there.
Yeah. I mean, do you think he's their best cornerback right now?
Ooh.
Is this going to be like a Chris Harris situation where he's the best cornerback in the slot?
In terms of the skill, I guess when you look at it, yeah. I've never really had to look at it that way. But I guess in terms of skill, yeah, you can say he's probably the most talented cornerback on the roster right now. But, of course, if we're throwing in potential, I think Terrell probably has the higher ceiling of anyone.
Right, because he can play on the outside.
And so, but right now, Sheffield is probably their most skilled corner at the moment.
Yeah. I don't think that's something I haven't really thought about either, but I don't know if that's a hot take. I think Sheffield was definitely the best of their corners last year, outside of Trufant, who is gone.
I need Sheffield on the inside. I know he's played a ton on the boundary.
Yeah.
I need him on the inside. His footwork is incredible, and I need his ability to be fluid in the hips. I need that to be against slot receivers.
Yeah.
To on the outside.
And since Brian Poole left, they have struggled to find a quality slot corner. So having Sheffield on the inside, when we know there's a lot of players in the division that they like to put in the slot, but they need a good player there. Chris Godwin's going to line up in the slot. Michael Thomas likes to line up in the slot and run those slants. He's got to be ready for those.
Those vaunted slants. That
there's just a ton of guys there that can line up in the slot and hurt you. So having him there is big. Evan, I'll go to you next. Do you think there's any chance that Jordan Miller gets the axe because of his suspension, or are you pretty comfortable with him sticking around this year?
That ultimately goes to what they think of his future. What was it? 4 games, I believe, he's suspended?
It's 4, but it's only 3 because he served 1 last year.
Okay. Yeah. So how does that work he counts against the roster?
So he does not.
He doesn't until
he comes back.
4,
yeah.
Interesting. There's a history of them doing that before with Was it Hageman?
Yes.
They did it with somebody else, I believe.
Collins.
I think it was Jalen Collins too.
Okay.
Yeah, Collins as well.
Might have been both.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't see why not, unless they just don't like him. You know, they just don't see any future for him in Atlanta, then probably not. But, I mean, it's not like we're blessed with a ton of, concrete talent here where,
right.
You can kind of get rid of people just on the whim of it. Terrell, hopefully things go according to plan for being a first-round pick. Oliver hopefully bounces back, does even better this year. Sheffield, I think he's, like Eric said, probably the best corner we have. But to answer your question, I wouldn't get rid of Miller right away just because there's a lot of question marks. Like, it's not like we're blessed with a ton of depth that we can trust.
Right.
Outside of like Bleedy, we kind of know what we're going to get with him. But then you have some of these other guys like C.J. Revis, Delrick Abrams is an undrafted free agent, Rojesterman Ferris, who probably has one of the better names on the team, but who knows what's going to happen with him. Probably more practice squad guys like Tyler Hall and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I mean, I think
they could always add somebody else.
They could. I mean, that's another position where they could potentially be looking to add someone in free agency. There are some names still out there, guys like Dre Kirkpatrick, longtime starter for the Bengals. Logan Ryan is a big name that's been out there. Trumaine Johnson, Aqib Talib. I mean, there's a lot of guys still out there.
Logan Ryan wants $10 million.
Yeah, they're probably not getting Logan Ryan, but, I'm just listing off the names at the top here.
Darquez Denard, though, is one.
Oh, yeah. Darquez Denard's out there. Hey, Akeem King. He's still out there. Didn't he play, actually somewhat solidly in Seattle last year? He had to start? I think he had to start, yeah.
I didn't know he played.
I think he had to start at some point, and it was, not the worst thing in the world, but, yeah. That's always kind of been Akeem King's MO, even when he was in Atlanta. If he gets on the field, it's not the worst thing in the world, but, that's not really going to get you very far in the NFL. So, yeah, I mean, I guess my next question would be kind of on that note, Eric, with all these mess of cornerbacks do we have, obviously they're probably going to keep at least 5, maybe even 6. So we've got a bunch of names and, Hawkins, C.J. Revis, Delrick Abrams, Rojesterman Ferris, Tyler Hall, and Miller's going to be, on the commissioner's list or whatever to start the season. So of that group, who do you think is making it as the 5th cornerback to start the season, at least until Jordan Miller comes back?
Josh Hawkins.
Yeah, that's probably who I'd go with too. But
yeah, I mean, he's the more reliable at this point. I mean, he has, he has NFL experience playing with the Packers, and he might see some time in the slot as well. I think he struggled a lot against the bigger receivers in the NFL, but he's probably the favorite out of that last tier group.
Yeah, and he was good in the XFL. I think he had several picks and.
Don't quote me on this. I believe he led the league in interceptions.
Maybe he did. Yeah, I don't know that offhand.
He was tops. He was one of the top guys.
Yeah. So sometimes time off and just getting that perspective helps people's career. And I wouldn't be shocked if he was the 5th guy, and if they keep 6 once Jordan Miller comes back either. And then from those other guys, do either of you guys have a favorite in terms of practice squad between Delrick Abrams, Rojesterman Ferris, and Tyler Hall? Do you think any of those guys have a shot for the squad? Or
I think Tyler Hall, but mainly I believe he did kick returns for Wyoming. I don't know how many yards, but he had 2 or 3 touchdowns. So maybe that gives him a nod. But I don't know much about the other guys to really make a fair opinion on that.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I put Tyler Hall into Google, it pulls up State University of New York, Oswego. Apparently one of their buildings is named Tyler Hall. So it's wait, where's the player? Somebody show me the player.
Yeah.
But yeah, so That's really close to where I live, so I just want to throw that in there. But I like Register Ferris's name a lot, and he's big.
I do too.
And
That's
he's big, so there's like a chance, he just makes the squad as like a big corner they want to try to develop. But yeah, Tyler Hall's probably the best of those guys in terms of what he showed on the field. But we'll
Abrams is 6'3", apparently.
Yeah, he's huge.
So he's got some pretty good
He's like
size,
Akeem
too.
King size, if we're talking about Akeem King. Yeah. But yeah. All right. Final position group on the defense. That is safety, where the Falcons have a whopping 9 players at safety. Top 4 guys, which may be all they keep when it's all said and done, are probably set in stone with Ricardo Allen, Keanu Neal, DeMonte Casey, and Jalen Hawkins, the 4th-round rookie from this year. Behind them are a lot of familiar names. Sherrod Niesman, another player who seems to be in Quinn's doghouse for about 60 to 70% of the season, then finally gets on the field and is better than all of the litany of guys we trotted out there before him. It's become a yearly tradition now. Jamal Carter, one of the aforementioned players that Sherrod Niesman is better than. Chris Cooper, cornerback safety hybrid player, and the one undrafted addition, Rayshawn Wilborn. Evan, you have any arguments over that top 4 of Allen, Neal, Casey, and Hawkins? Do you think there's anybody else we should throw in there as like a safe player on this group?
No, not really. Niesman, it's like in the past we were desperate, like due to injuries, and they really didn't seem to want to go to him. But yeah, I think the last one you mentioned, Wilborn, he's kind of interesting because he's huge. He's like 6'4". I believe he played linebacker or some linebacker, at least in college at Ball State. So that could be, more of the kind of safety linebacker hybrid that they seem to like. But aside from that, I think it's pretty safe with the guys you mentioned.
Yeah, I think so too. Eric, do you think they would potentially keep a 5th guy in this group, or do you think it's going to be 4?
I do. I think they'll keep a 5th. I think this is much more of a safer bet yeah, I think they keep 5. And I think it's pretty much Jalen Hawkins to win. It's his to win. I think, of course you got Keanu and Ricardo and KZ, and I think the team likes Sherrod Niesman.
They just don't want to start him, I guess.
They just don't want to start him, right? But I think Jalen Hawkins is probably your favorite out of that last bunch. Don't sleep on a guy like Jamal Carter, who is a missile.
Mm-hmm.
Strong safety. That guy likes to hit. He's physical. So if you need he's more physical than Niesman, definitely.
Yeah, Niesman's more athletic, but definitely
Carter. He just needs some seasoning.
Yeah.
So I think you definitely keep 5, and I think Carter is probably going to be the practice squad guy.
Yeah, because he is still eligible along with Chris Cooper and Rayshawn Wilborn, I believe, for the practice squad. So, that would not shock me either. Evan, you got a particular favorite out of that last group of someone who might make the squad as a safety?
Not really. I guess Niesman, if I had to give a nod, but I don't really know. And I'm blanking. Who was it that we traded for from the Eagles? Wasn't it Cyprian or whatever?
Yes, it was. But he got put on IR like after his first game, and then I think they just didn't.
Yeah, I remember.
It was a 1-year deal, so they just didn't have.
Oh, okay. So he's just a free agent.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, I thought there was somebody else. But, yeah.
Another one in the parade of players they tried to play above Sherrod Niesman.
Yeah, 3 starting safeties in the first 3 weeks. 3 strong safeties.
Yeah, that's when they were like, oh, we have Sherrod Niesman, but let's not.
Yeah,
we need to keep trading for players to play above Sherrod Niesman, not realizing all this time that Sherrod Niesman's better than every single one of these players. They didn't figure it out with Jordan Richards either until like 3/4 of the way through the season.
Jesus.
So
Jordan Richards.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Good Lord.
I'm sure they would have tried to trade for him again or sign him again, but he was already under contract, I think, last year.
So they would not sign. Man, play me or you put them.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you pay me enough, I'll go out there, but I don't really want to try to tackle Derrick Henry. That's not really my style.
Shit.
Yeah.
That was awful.
Yeah, that was not great. So yeah, that's the safety group for you. I guess we'll talk real quick about the specialists because there's really only one battle that's occurring. We've got Josh Harris at long snapper, Younghoe Koo at kicker. Maybe they'll bring in another kicker for competition. We don't know yet.
Hope so.
We'll see. And then the punter battle though, that's where it's at. We got veteran Ryan Allen, who the team just
Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, who the team just doesn't seem to like for whatever reason. Like they've been trying to replace him ever since he got here. And rookie Sterling Hofrichter from Syracuse, who is my son because he played at Syracuse and I actually know who he is. So yeah, I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on how this might shake out? I mean,
how the hell do we have 2 punters, man?
Ryan Allen isn't even making that much money, so it can't be a financial thing. I mean, maybe they just wanted to get young because Allen's kind of old, but I mean,
I don't get it.
It was a 7th round pick, so I'm never gonna complain about a 7th round pick, but
we complained about 7th round pick when we traded it for a former 1st round edge rusher,
Jordan Richards.
But we didn't care about a 7th round pick when we used it to draft the punter.
I didn't care about the Charles Harris trade. That was not me.
Yeah.
Don't put that evil on me.
I get Eric is right though. There was a lot of people complaining about it.
Yeah, a next year 7th. Look, 7th round picks are basically worthless. Every single 7th round pick is worth 1 point on the trade scale.
Average, it was a good trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a former 1st round edge rusher for a 7th round pick, but no one gave 2 shits about drafting a punter when you already have one in the 7th round. Yeah. And there was pass rushers still on the lit on the draft.
Mm-hmm.
It's because Sterling Hofrichter is actually good, and people don't think Charles Harris is good. So,
honestly, what's when it comes to being a punter, what's really okay? He has great hang time. I get it. Awesome, cool.
Some of the best in college football.
How much of that is really going to change a game? That's what I always look at.
Well, maybe that's why you use a 7th round pick. Yes.
Kicking a field goal is one thing, but if the Falcons win a close game, we're not going to look at it and say, man, Sterling Hofrichter had 4 punts that had 6-second hang times, man.
Those coffin corner punts, man.
That was the key to why they won that game. Okay, all right.
They have had this
I think
obsession
it's weird.
with it. Yeah. Go for it. Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's weird they haven't really. I mean, I guess there's been a couple times where teams have tried it, but having an extra spot on your team seems like a valuable thing to have. Where if you could train these, kickers to punt the ball, it's that'd be a whole nother spot you could have on your team. And it's the punter's job is just kickers can literally. I mean, I guess the punter's job is obviously important in terms of position, but. That's what I mean. If you could somehow train the kicker to also do it. And I know Hofreiter or whatever, however you say it, he also kicked. He had a 52-yard long at Syracuse.
He was 3 or 4 field goals.
But Allen was fairly decent.
Yes, Allen was good.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't understand it.
No,
don't get me wrong.
It wasn't as if they kind of sort of need a punter.
Well, that's Allen the worst thing. Didn't they re-sign Allen?
Exactly.
Yeah, for a year.
Yeah,
because they had a punter. To draft another punter.
Well,
yeah.
I think because they had that other punter too, Sam Irwin-Hill.
Was that the guy who had the visa?
Yeah,
problem?
and then he had the visa problem, and they cut him the day before day 3 of the draft. So they just don't like Ryan Allen. I don't know why. It's like a Deidre Sanat thing. There's not really a reason for it. They just don't like the guy, so they just want competition for him. They don't really want him to be on the team. Which, if you don't want him to be on the team, then just don't sign him. But it's never that simple, I guess.
I mean, if you want competition, have an open competition battle in training camp or whatever. When it comes to punter, you re-sign one. And you draft another when the team is still at that point in time. The team was still lacking in pass rusher. The team was in need of linebacker depth. I mean, I felt like at that point in time, this is one of those years where the talent still available in the 7th round was kind of usable. We're talking about guys like Kenny Willekes that were still available. Yeah. And the team needed certain spots to be shored up, and they re-signed a punter and drafted another one. I'm okay, guys. This is. I know you guys love competition, but God,
or even those couple guys that we think that Roland, who could be a kick returner for us. You could secure them instead of having to bid.
To me, that's more of an impact. A returner is more of an impact than a guy that has great hang time as a punter. I'm sorry. There's a reason why Ray Guy is probably like the only punter in the Hall of Fame. Like, there's a reason why.
Yeah, because it's just not that high of an impact, and you're right.
It's not.
Right. But a seventh round draft pick, also not a very high impact draft pick. So maybe they deserve each other. Yeah.
Well, like Evan just said, when it comes to someone like a returner, like you look at some of the greatest returners of all time. Yeah, Brian Mitchell. Mm-hmm. Brian Mitchell made a career, almost 20-year career as just
Billy White Shoes.
Yep.
Right.
Billy White Shoes.
I mean, one that
Devin Hester.
Yeah, Hester. Everyone here's familiar with. Yeah.
Those guys have more of an impact to a game than a guy that has great hang time as a punter. Like, no one's going to point that out if the Falcons win a game.
Right. There's also probably, I guess you could maybe say something for like maybe there was like 3 or 4 draftable punters this year, like maybe, and there's probably like 100 returners.
Yeah. Well, how many punters were taken? Wasn't it like one punter drafted?
I think Hofrichter was the only one, but like if he's your guy at punter,
Jesus,
you take him in the 7th round. Who cares? Who cares? Like
they were going to be there at the end of the draft, Kevin. Like no one was going to.
Well, maybe New Orleans was going to trade up, from next year's draft to take him when they found out the Falcons were going to sign him in undrafted free agency.
Good. That's something you allow. Like, wait a minute, they're giving up what?
They're going to give up a next year's 4th to trade up into the 7th, for Sterling Hofrichter.
We didn't really like Hofrichter anyway.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It was all a trap, yeah. But
you do that. You let them do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's basically, but yeah, I mean, I would be kind of shocked at this point if Hofrichter didn't win the punting job just because it seems like they don't like Ryan Allen and they just want Hofrichter to be the punter. Maybe it's because they like his field goal ability, like he can kick long field goals and Younghoe Koo can't, so maybe they like that. I don't know.
But that's why you should bring in kicker competition, especially with that possible onside kick change and the whole Matt Bryant thing last year.
Yeah.
So you're using a 7th round pick on a guy that can kick long field goals when you have an offense that's probably going to put you in a position where you're not going to need 50-yard field goals.
Man, why couldn't they have drafted Rodrigo Blankenship,
Oh, goodness.
Jesus Christ. All right, that's enough.
All right, we're going to end the show there. That's going to be our final take of the night, folks. But, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's like, did they really have to draft him? Probably not. But, Syracuse, it's a Syracuse player, so I'm like contractually obliged never to slander any Syracuse player that the Falcons draft. So, yeah, not going to hear any slander from me. But yeah, you guys have any final takes before we wrap it up for this evening?
Nope.
Cool.
So June 1st, we get how much money?
You get $10.75 million.
But hopefully something will happen.
They also have to sign the draft class, which is going to cost like $2.5 million or so. So yeah, they'll have about like $8 million maybe to play around with.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully,
we didn't even get to talk about the Devonta Freeman stuff.
Oh yeah, he said "F all y'all." That's what he said.
Yeah. So, F everyone here.
Yeah. F the Falcoholic Live in particular. Those guys, they've been slandering me for too long. Yeah. But yeah, Freeman. I mean, go get your money, brother. But you should have taken the $4 million from Seattle. That's all I'm gonna say on that one. You're not getting a better offer than that. I love that Seattle also just turned around and just immediately signed somebody else too. They're like, all right.
Like 20 minutes later.
Oh, okay. You said no. Okay, bye. Yeah, that's fine. It's like
Carlos Hyde will take $4 million.
Yeah, Carlos Hyde had a way better season. Oh my God, I would have signed Carlos Hyde like way before Devonta Freeman. So they saved the Seahawks from themselves.
That's the part I don't get. His first game would have been in Atlanta, and apparently that's the game where they would have needed him the most because I think was it Penny or someone's not going to possibly be ready. I don't know. It seemed too perfect. But.
Yeah, but no. He's had to get that money, chase them dollar signs. So, yeah. I mean, get your money, but, some money is better than no money. Write that down. True. Write that down, folks. That's today's lesson. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up with that. So, guys, we appreciate all you for tuning in. If you don't mind throwing the show a like, that helps others on the YouTubes find us, and if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and you will get all of the notifications when we go live. So before we take off for tonight, I want to thank my co-hosts first off, Eric Robinson. He's on Twitter at _Eric_Robinson. Eric, anything you're working on that you want to plug?
No, nothing that I'm working on at the moment, but I do have a couple of pieces out. One that's paying a little homage to our starting quarterback, our future Hall of Famer, Matt Ryan. So give that a look. Yeah, and I also did a prediction piece on the Bucks and why I think this is the year we need to take them serious.
All right, yeah, definitely check that out, guys. It's some good stuff there. Also with us tonight, Evan Birchfield at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. Evan, anything that you're working on? I know you've been plugging that UDFA series. That's good stuff. Anything else that you want to let the people know about?
Yeah, aside from the past ones, like since we did the last show, I had the Seolosi Latu and Austin Edwards UDFAs if you want to read up on them. And also, me and Adnan are doing more of the fantasy content. So if you're into fantasy football, there's a couple things up there. It's not yet up there, but in the coming days there'll be Todd Gurley Fantasy Outlook, and Adnan's going to be doing, I believe, Calvin Ridley. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. All right, folks, and I'm Kevin Knight. Follow me on Twitter at Falcoholic Kevin. Today I had the long-awaited Falcons post-June 1st free agency targets Edge group. I know you guys were salty when I threw in that kicker one in between the offense and the defense just to throw you off. So I know some people were upset by that. That was my troll job. I apologize. I felt like I had to. So, but yeah, the Edge, the one you all wanted to read, is out now. Tomorrow's defensive tackle, linebackers coming after that. So all the juicy ones are coming. So you've been very patient. I appreciate you. So check that out. And the show is on Twitter as well at Falcoholic Live. So follow that handle if you haven't already. But we appreciate you guys tuning in the depths of the offseason. We'll hope maybe next time we'll have some news about maybe when OTAs might start up or something like that. That'd be cool. And then in theory, training camp is like a little over a month away. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we get some semblance of training camp. I would love to go to that for the first week once again this year and report on that for you. But we'll see what happens. So until next time, guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. For everyone here on the show, thank you once again, and have a great night. See you guys.